Hello everyone, and welcome to the Mac OS Database Setup. So this lecture is going to show you how to use the zip file from the previous lecture and set up your database for the course. In order to open and extract this zip file, you may need to download some free software. I personally recommend downloading www.izip.com's file or software, the iZip application. That will allow you to open and extract zip files. So again, if you haven't already, go back to the previous lecture and download from the resources section the dvdrental.zip file. If you're using a Mac and haven't downloaded any zip file or extraction software, go to www.izip.com, which I'll show you in just a second, and download the iZip program in order to extract zip files. I should note, sometimes the default archive utility won't work for this step, meaning if you try unzipping the file using archive utility, the default for a Mac, sometimes it won't work. So, a quick note on the database. We're going to be using the Common Learning Sample Database, the Sql database, known as the Pagila or Pagila, depending how you want to pronounce it, database for PostgreSQL. A couple of reasons why this is a great database. One, it's a really common database for examples. And two, it's really easy to use as a reference tool. So that means if you look up online documentation, more often than not, they'll be using this particular database to show off their examples. Meaning, since you've learned on this database throughout this course, it's going to be really easy to hop around to different examples if you're using a database you're already familiar with. So this database kind of reflects a chain of DVD rental stores, so it's also really easy to understand what each of the tables represents, such as customers, DVDs, films, actors, languages, etc. Okay. Once you've completed this lecture, you can go ahead and jump straight to the lecture titled Challenge Restore a Database. It's a couple lectures ahead of this. From that lecture and onwards, this course will be relatively OS neutral, meaning whether you're using a Mac or Windows, everything should look exactly the same as far as the SQL queries are concerned. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop to my desktop and show you what you need to know and actually go through the process of setting up our new database and filling it with the data we need. I'm going to go ahead and jump to my desktop now. Okay, so here I am at my desktop, and what I wanted to show you that in case you don't have zip software, what you should do is go to www.izip.com and scroll down and download for free this iZip software. It's completely free, so you don't need to pay for any sort of license here. And it's a really nice way to manage and unzip and extract information from .zip files. Once you've done that, go ahead and locate the dvdrental.zip file that you downloaded from the previous lecture. For me, it's located right here on my desktop, dvdrental.zip. Go ahead, right-click on it, say Open With. Don't use the archive utility default. Instead, go to Other. This will show you a list of all your applications. Enable all applications. Click I to go down to the I applications, and then you should see iZip after you've downloaded it. Granted, maybe you're using another zip software. As long as you feel comfortable using that and everything works out the same as it does for iZip, that's okay too. But let's go ahead and click Open with iZip. And now we have DVD rental, and you should see dvdrental.tar. That's exactly the file we need, so everything's ready to go. If you tried doing this same step with archive utility default, you may have gotten a folder that looks something like this, with a bunch of .dat files and a restore.sql file. It's going to be a lot harder to use these files to restore the database, so make sure that when you extracted the database, it ended up giving you a .tar file. That's kind of important for the next step. Again, if you're getting something that looks more like this with the .dat files and finally a restore.sql, download i.zip and make sure you can extract it so that it looks like a .tar file instead. Okay, with that being said, once we have that all set up on our desktop, the next step is to restore the database in pgadmin. Go ahead and do Command Space and search for pgadmin. Then click Enter to open it. Let's go ahead and expand this a little bit so it's easier to see. So this is what pgadmin should look like. You should have servers here. Go ahead and double click on PostgreSQL 9.5. you'll be prompted for your password. Go ahead and put it in. And if you don't want to be prompted for your password every time, you can just click here and say store password. Click OK. It'll give you a warning about showing passwords. You can just say don't show this hint again and click OK. Alright, now we're ready to actually make a database. What we can do is you can see I already have a couple of databases made here. You will probably only have this PostgreSQL or Postgres database. In order to create a new database, go ahead and right click on database and click New Database. Then just put in the name of the database you want. We'll call this New DVD Database. And then click OK. Once you've done that, you should see the new database pop up here. Now, if you go ahead and click on the drop-down menus, you'll see Schema, Public, and then all the way down here, you'll see Tables equals 0. So that means while we do have a database, we don't actually have any data in it. So the next step is to use that .tar file in order to fill out the data for our database. So what we're going to do is if we go ahead and right-click on New DVD Database, that database that we just created, go ahead and click on Restore. You should see something like this pop up with Format, Custom, or tar, and then File Name. What you're going to want to do is go ahead and clear that. And once you've cleared that file name, go ahead and then click on these three dots. And what we want to do now is figure out where our dvdrental.tar file is. So for me, it's on my desktop, but if we actually look to where my desktop is, it's actually presented as a drive or a device. So it's going to be listed under devices here, under DVD rental. So if you use the iZip application program to do this, it'll probably be under devices. If you use something else, it'll be wherever the dvdrental.zip file is located. Go ahead and find the .tar file. If you can't click on it, it's because you haven't enabled it as selectable. So go ahead and go to Enable, All Files, and then you can go ahead and click the .tar file here. Then click Open, and then just click Restore. You should see some messages pop up, and then if process return exit code 0 means you're done, go ahead and click Done here. And if we go ahead and refresh this database, so New DVD Database, go ahead and click Refresh. And now if we scroll down to the tables, you have all the tables available to you, and your database is now full of data. So just to make sure everything's working correctly, go ahead and click New DVD Database, or whatever you decided to name your database. Click here on this little magnifying glass that says Execute Arbitrary SQL Query. You should see something that looks like this, and go ahead and say select space asterisk from actor semicolon. And you actually don't have to uppercase select and from, and we'll show you how to do these sort of queries later on. But if you just go ahead and select this execute query, this play button, and if you get data output coming out of this, so it's down here, if you get data output, that means everything's ready to go, and you're more than ready to go ahead and tackle the rest of the course. Now you can go ahead and feel free to jump directly to the challenge lecture, and the challenge lecture is just going to ask you to basically repeat all the steps we just did in order to practice restoring a database. Go ahead and don't worry about saving that query for now. As a quick review, let me just go over everything we just did to restore this database. Okay, let's quickly go over all the steps we just did for creating that database. You had to download the dvdrental.zip file from the previous lecture, download or already use your favorite zip application file to extract stuff from .zip files. I recommend going to www.izip.com. Then open and extract the dvdrental.tar file from the dvdrental.zip file using izip. Then you had to search for pgadmin3 and open it. Then you had to double click on PostgreSQL 9.5 to go ahead and see those databases drop down. Then right click on the databases icon and then select New Database. And then you could have been naming your new database and then you just select Done. That was for creating the database. After that, we restored the database. In order to do that, you had to right click on that new database and select Restore. You had to find the path to the dvdrental.tar file and remember to enable all the file extensions. Then you had to select it and click on Restore. After that, we had to just click the refresh button with your database selected, and then you should now be able to see the tables 15 in the drop-down menu of your database, and you can test this like we just did by executing an arbitrary SQL query on the database. Okay, so all these steps are lined out for you in both the previous lecture and then the next lecture as a quick article summarizing what we just did. Okay, so if you have any questions, go ahead and ask a discussion question. Sometimes installing and restoring these databases can be tricky, so always feel free to ask any discussion questions. All right, thanks everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.